My brother stole my sperm donation samples and impregnated his wife without my consent. Now I'm grappling with whether to be involved in the child's life or cut them out forever. It's still sinking in, honestly. I feel like I've been hit by a truck, but also like I'm floating outside of my own body watching this unfold. I found out yesterday in the most unbelievable way that my brother Alexander stole my sperm donation samples and used them to impregnate his wife Victoria without my consent or knowledge. Let me back up a bit. About 5 years ago, I decided to donate sperm. It wasn't something I'd planned for my whole life, but I was in a good place financially and emotionally, and I liked the idea of helping someone build a family. I went through a reputable clinic, did all the screenings, the interviews, the whole process. It was anonymous donation, meaning I wouldn't know who the recipients were and they wouldn't know me. I was fine with that. It felt like a good, selfless thing to do. Fast forward to now. I'm 32, single and living a pretty quiet life. My brother Alexander is 35, married to Victoria for about 7 years. They've been trying to have kids for a while and it's been a really sensitive topic for them. I know they've gone through fertility treatments, IVF, everything. It's been heartbreaking to watch them struggle. I've tried to be supportive, but honestly, it's been awkward sometimes. You don't really know what to say in those situations. Yesterday, I got a call from my mother. She was agitated, to put it mildly. She asked me if I'd spoken to Alexander recently. I said not really, just a quick text here and there. Then she just blurted it out. Alexander and Victoria are pregnant and it's your baby. I thought I misheard her. I literally laughed. Mom, what are you talking about? That's impossible. She insisted it wasn't impossible. Apparently, Victoria is pregnant and they've been telling everyone it's a miracle baby after all their struggles. But then a few days ago, Alexander apparently confessed to my mother in a tearful, drunken phone call the truth. He told her he couldn't live with the lie anymore. He stole my sperm donation samples from the clinic, my donated sperm, my genetic material. He somehow managed to get access to it and used it to impregnate Victoria, without my consent, without Victoria's explicit knowledge, at least initially, according to my mother. My mother was hysterical on the phone. Was angry, disgusted, and mostly just. Confused, she kept repeating, "Why, Rachel, why would he do this?" And honestly, I have no idea. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it. It feels like something out of a bad movie. Who does that? Who steals someone else's sperm and uses it to have a baby? Especially your own brothers. I hung up with my mother, feeling numb. I didn't know what to do. I paced around my apartment for hours. I tried to call Alexander, but he didn't answer. I texted Victoria asking if we could talk, but she just replied with a question mark. Finally, late last night, Alexander texted me back, just one word, "Please." I called him immediately. He answered, his voice shaky. He sounded like he'd been crying. "Rachel," he said, "I know I messed up. I know I did something terrible." "Terrible?" I said, my voice rising. "Alexander, you stole my sperm. You used it to get your wife pregnant. Do you even understand what you've done?" He started rambling about how much they wanted a baby, how desperate they were, how they felt like they'd tried everything. He said Victoria was devastated by the repeated failures of IVF. He said he just wanted to give her a baby, any baby. He said he knew about my sperm donation from years ago because he'd helped me research clinics when I was first considering it. He said he remembered the clinic I used. He said he somehow managed to get hold of my samples. He wouldn't tell me how, just that he did. "And Victoria," I asked, my voice tight, "did she know?" He hesitated. "Not at first," he mumbled. I told her it was from an anonymous donor from the clinic. She thought it was normal. "And now, she knows now," he said, his voice barely a whisper. "I told her after I told Mom." "And how did she react?" Silence. "Then she's upset, confused. She doesn't know what to think." Upset and confused, that's it. My brother steals my sperm, uses it to impregnate his wife, lies to her about it, and all she is upset and confused. What about me? What about my feelings? What about the fact that I now have a niece or nephew out there conceived through theft and deception? "Alexander," I said, trying to keep my voice level, "this isn't just a mistake. This is illegal. This is morally reprehensible. You violated me. You violated Victoria. You violated the whole idea of sperm donation." He started crying again. "I know, Rachel, I know, I'm so sorry. Please talk to Victoria. Please talk to us. We can explain. We can make it right." "Make it right? How do you make this right? How do you undo something like this? There's a baby involved now, a real, living human being. My biological child raised by my brother and his wife under a lie." I hung up on him. I couldn't listen to him anymore. I felt sick to my stomach, betrayed, angry. And yes, maybe a little bit scared. This is my family, my brother, someone I've known my whole life, and he did this. What else is he capable of? I don't know what to do next. My head is spinning. Part of me wants to just pretend this never happened, to bury it deep down and never think about it again. But I can't just ignore this. It's too big, too wrong. I need advice, Reddit. What do I do? Do I talk to Victoria? Do I get lawyers involved? Do I just cut them both out of my life? I'm lost, completely and utterly lost. It's been a few days since I posted, and honestly, things have gotten even more complicated. I've been reading through the comments, and thank you to everyone who offered advice and support. It's helped to know I'm not completely crazy for feeling this way. I did talk to Victoria. It was intense. She called me yesterday after Alexander apparently told her I was considering legal action. Her voice was trembling when she spoke. Rachel, she said, please, can we meet? I need to explain. I was hesitant, but I agreed. We met at a neutral place, a coffee shop halfway between our homes. She looked exhausted, pale, and her eyes were red and puffy. She's visibly pregnant, maybe 4 or 5 months along, I'd guess. Seeing her like that, carrying my child, was surreal and incredibly unsettling. She started talking almost as soon as she sat down, like she was afraid if she stopped, she'd fall apart. She confirmed what my mother had told me, that Alexander had stolen my sperm, that she hadn't known initially it was mine. He told me it was from an anonymous donor, she said, her voice cracking. From the clinic, he said he'd managed to get a sample that was a really good match for us. He made it sound like it was all above board, just a bit unconventional. Unconventional. I repeated, raising an eyebrow. Victoria, he stole my sperm. She winced. I know, it sounds insane now, but at the time, we were so desperate. We'd been trying for so long. We'd spent so much money on treatments that failed. We were both just broken. She went on to explain that Alexander had presented this as their last chance. He'd told her it was a way to finally have a baby to complete their family. She admitted she'd been suspicious, but she'd also been so emotionally drained and desperate that she'd pushed her doubts aside. She wanted to believe him. She wanted a baby more than anything. I didn't know it was you, Rachel, she pleaded, tears streaming down her face. I swear to God I didn't know. If I had known, I would never have agreed to it. Never. I wanted to believe her. Part of me did. She seemed genuinely distraught, genuinely horrified by what had happened. Another part of me was still deeply suspicious. How could she not have questioned it more? How could she have gone along with something so shady without asking more questions? When did you find out it was me? I asked, my voice cold. She hesitated again. A few weeks ago, she admitted. Alexander, he confessed. He couldn't keep it in anymore. He was falling apart with guilt. And your reaction? She looked down at her hands, twisting them in her lap. I was angry, so angry. Betrayed, disgusted, everything. I yelled at him. I screamed. I didn't know what to do. I still don't. But you're still with him, I pointed out. You're still married to him. Yes, she said softly. I am. I don't know what else to do. I'm pregnant, Rachel. I'm carrying a baby, your baby, and Alexander's wife. My life is completely upside down. She started sobbing again, and I felt a flicker of something, pity, empathy, maybe. She was a victim in this too, in a way. Alexander had manipulated her, lied to her, put her in this impossible situation. Victoria, I said, trying to soften my tone, I understand you're in a difficult position, but you need to understand how this looks from my side. My brother stole my sperm. He used it to have a baby without my consent. That's a crime, Victoria, and it's a massive betrayal. I know, she whispered. I know, and I'm so sorry, Rachel, for everything, for Alexander's actions. For the position this puts you in, for everything. She asked me what I wanted to do. She said she would understand if I wanted to get lawyers involved, if I wanted to cut them out of my life, if I wanted anything. She said she would cooperate with whatever I decided. I told her I didn't know yet. I said I needed time to think. I said I needed to process everything. I said I would be in touch. We left it at that. I walked away from that coffee shop feeling even more confused than before. Victoria's pain was real. Her remorse seemed genuine. But Alexander's actions were still unforgivable. And the fact remains, there's a baby on the way. My baby. Growing inside Victoria, conceived through theft and lies. I've talked to a lawyer, as some of you suggested. He said legally, it's a very complex situation. There are potential criminal charges against Alexander for theft and fraud. There are also civil implications regarding parental rights and responsibilities. He said I have a strong case, but pursuing legal action would be messy, expensive, and emotionally draining, and it would inevitably involve Victoria and the baby. He asked me what I wanted to achieve, and honestly, I still don't know. Do I want to be a father to this child? Do I want to be involved in its life? Do I want to sue my brother and tear my family apart? Do I want to force Victoria to have an abortion, as some commenters suggested? That last one is absolutely out of the question. That's not my decision to make, and I would never want to force anyone to do that. I'm still wrestling with all of this. My family is in chaos. My mother is beside herself. My father is furious at Alexander. They both keep asking me what I'm going to do, but I have no answers for them. I feel like I'm standing at a crossroads with no idea which path to take. Each option seems terrible, each one with its own set of devastating consequences. I'm trapped and I don't see a way out. It's been another few weeks and I think I'm starting to see a path forward, though it's not a path I ever imagined taking. The legal stuff is still ongoing, but it's moving slowly. My lawyer is preparing a cease and desist letter for Alexander, demanding he stop contacting me in Victoria and preserve all evidence related to the sperm theft. We're also exploring the possibility of filing criminal charges, but that's still up in the air. The biggest development, though, is my relationship with Victoria. We've been talking, a lot, not every day, but regularly. We've met for coffee a few more times, and we've also talked on the phone. It's been Surprisingly productive and surprisingly human. She's still incredibly remorseful about everything. She's also furious at Alexander, and rightfully so. She's started individual therapy to deal with the emotional fallout of his betrayal and the whole situation. She's also been incredibly open and honest with me about her feelings, her fears, and her hopes for the future. And here's the thing that's really changed my perspective. She wants me to be involved in the baby's life. Not in a parental role, not in a co-parenting situation with her and Alexander, but as an uncle in a way. She wants the baby to know who I am, to know its biological father, to understand its origins. She wants to be honest with the child from the beginning as much as is age appropriate. She doesn't want to perpetuate the lie. She said she understands if I want nothing to do with it, if it's too painful or too complicated. But she also said she thinks it would be good for the baby and maybe even good for me to have some kind of connection. Initially, I was completely against it. The idea of being involved in their lives after everything that's happened felt unbearable. But as I've talked to Victoria more and as I've thought about it more, I've started to soften just a little. She's not trying to replace me as the father or to force me into a role I don't want. She's just offering a chance to acknowledge the reality of the situation, to create some kind of relationship with this child on my own terms. And honestly, the more I think about it, the more it makes sense. This baby is innocent in all of this. It didn't ask to be conceived this way. It deserves to know the truth, and it deserves to have a connection with its biological father if I'm willing to offer it. It's not going to be easy. It's going to be messy and complicated and probably incredibly painful at times. But maybe it's the least destructive path forward. Maybe it's a way to salvage something from this disaster, to create something positive out of something so negative. I haven't made a final decision yet. I'm still talking to my lawyer, still talking to Victoria, still trying to figure out what's best for everyone involved, including myself. But I'm leaning towards being involved in some capacity. Towards trying to build a relationship with this child on my own terms, with clear boundaries and with the understanding that this is not a typical family situation. Alexander is still out of the picture. He's moved out of the house at Victoria's request. She's filed for divorce. He's in therapy, apparently trying to deal with his own issues. I haven't spoken to him directly since that first phone call, and I don't plan to anytime soon. He needs to face the consequences of his actions, and he needs to understand the enormity of what he's done. This is far from over. There are still so many unknowns, so many potential pitfalls. But for the first time since I found out about all of this, I feel a glimmer of hope. A hope that maybe, just maybe, we can find a way to navigate this impossible situation and create something resembling peace for everyone involved, especially for the baby. It won't be the family I imagined, or the family anyone would choose, but maybe, just maybe, it can be a family nonetheless.
My sister is trying to sabotage my wedding by using her long-lost twin to impersonate me and claim I'm still in love with my ex. Is she succeeding? My sister Danielle has always been competitive, but lately it's reached a whole new level of bizarre and frankly hurtful. I'm getting married to Maverick in 3 months, something I've been dreaming about for years. We've been together for 5 years, and honestly, he's my best friend and the love of my life. Everything should be perfect, right? Wedding planning is stressful, sure, but exciting. Except Danielle seems determined to throw a wrench into everything, and it's all centered around my ex-boyfriend, Austin. Austin and I dated for about 2 years in college. It was a typical college relationship, passionate but ultimately not sustainable. We broke up amicably, stayed friends for a while, and then drifted apart as life moved on. It's been almost 8 years since we last spoke, and I haven't thought of him romantically in ages. Maverick knows about Austin. Obviously, it's part of my past. He's never been insecure or jealous, quite the opposite actually. He's secure in our relationship, and I've always appreciated that. But Danielle, for some reason, has decided that I'm secretly still pining for Austin and that I'm going to leave Maverick at the altar for him. It started subtly a few weeks ago. We were at a family dinner, and she casually brought up Austin's name, asking if I'd heard from him recently. I said no and truthfully hadn't even thought about him. She then launched into this story about how she'd seen him at a coffee shop in my old college town and how he looked really good and so successful. It was weirdly pointed, but I brushed it off as Danielle being Danielle, always needing to stir the pot. Then it escalated. Last week, Maverick and I were at my parents' house, helping them with some yard work. Danielle was there too, and while Maverick was inside getting drinks, she cornered me in the garden. She started by saying she was concerned about me. Concerned? I asked, wondering what fresh drama she was about to unleash. Caroline, she said, lowering her voice conspiratorially, I just don't want you to make a mistake. I rolled my eyes. What mistake, Danielle? Marrying the man I love? No, it's just, are you really over Austin? I stared at her, genuinely confused. Yes, Danielle, of course I am. It's been years. I'm marrying Maverick, she scoffed. But was Austin the one? She actually used air quotes around the one. Danielle, this is ridiculous. Austin was a college boyfriend. Maverick is my fiancé, there's a huge difference. But you were so heartbroken when you broke up with Austin. Mom said you cried for weeks. She was digging up ancient history now. Yes, I was sad. Breakups are sad, but that was 8 years ago. People move on. But maybe you didn't. Maybe you're settling for Maverick because Austin wasn't available. I honestly couldn't believe what I was hearing. Danielle, you're being insane. I love Maverick. I'm not settling. I'm excited to marry him. She just smirked. We'll see about that. Weddings have a way of bringing things to the surface. And then she just walked away, leaving me standing there, completely bewildered and frankly, a little angry. I told Maverick about the conversation later that night. He just laughed it off. Danielle's always been dramatic, you know that. Don't let her get to you. He's always been good at calming me down, and I tried to take his advice. But then, yesterday, things took a turn for the worse. Maverick and I were meeting with the florist, finalizing the arrangements. My phone buzzed with a text from Danielle. It was a screenshot of an old Facebook post from when Austin and I were dating. It was a picture of us at some college party, looking young and goofy and yes, happy. Underneath, Danielle had written, just stumbled across this. Remembering the good old days, Caroline, maybe too good to leave behind? I was furious. I showed Maverick the text, and this time he wasn't laughing. He looked genuinely concerned. What is she doing, Caroline? I have no idea. Trying to sabotage my wedding, apparently. I was starting to feel genuinely upset. This wasn't just annoying sisterly teasing anymore. This felt malicious. Have you talked to her about this? Maverick asked, his brow furrowed. Tried to. She just dismisses it as concern and looking out for me. Maybe there's something to it. Maverick said hesitantly, and my heart sank. Even he was starting to doubt me. Maverick, are you serious? You think I'm secretly in love with Austin? After 5 years together, you think I'm going to run off with my college ex? I was trying to keep my voice calm, but I could feel the anger rising. He held up his hands defensively. No, of course not. It's just, Danielle is your sister. She knows you. Maybe she sees something we don't. Or maybe she's just jealous and wants to cause drama, I retorted, feeling a wave of hurt wash over me. You know me, Maverick. You know I love you. Why would you even entertain this? He sighed, running a hand through his hair. I don't know, Caroline. It's weird, isn't it? All this focus on Austin out of nowhere. It's making me a little uneasy. Uneasy? It was making me more than uneasy. It was making me question everything. If Maverick, the man who knows me best, was starting to doubt my feelings, what was I supposed to do? I love Maverick, I truly do. But Danielle's insidious campaign was starting to plant seeds of doubt, not just in Maverick's mind, but in my own. Was I truly over Austin? Was there some buried feeling I was ignoring? The thought was terrifying, especially with my wedding just around the corner. I need to shut this down, and fast, before Danielle's twisted game ruins everything. I just don't know how. Update 1 * things have gotten even more complicated, and honestly, I'm starting to feel like I'm living in a soap opera. After my last post, Maverick and I had a long, tense conversation. He admitted that Danielle's comments had gotten to him, that he was starting to feel insecure. It hurt a lot to hear him say that. I thought we were rock solid, that our relationship was built on trust and understanding. But Danielle's poison was seeping in, eroding that foundation. I tried to reassure him, telling him again and again how much I loved him, how ridiculous Danielle's accusations were. He seemed to believe me, at least on a surface level, but I could still see the doubt flickering in his eyes. It was like she had planted a seed of suspicion, and now it was starting to sprout. Then, yesterday, Danielle escalated things again, this time involving my parents. Apparently, she had called them, expressing her deep concern about my upcoming marriage. She painted this dramatic picture of me secretly yearning for Austin, marrying Maverick out of obligation or fear of being alone, and destined for a miserable life of regret. My parents, bless their hearts, are generally pretty level-headed, but they are also easily swayed by Danielle's dramatic pronouncements. She's always been the sensitive one, the worried one, and they tend to take her anxieties seriously. So, yesterday afternoon, my mom called me, sounding unusually hesitant. Caroline, honey, are you really happy about marrying Maverick? I almost choked on my coffee. Mom, what are you talking about? Of course I'm happy. I've been planning this wedding for months. It's just, Danielle called. She's worried about you. Danielle is being ridiculous, Mom. She's trying to stir up trouble. I could feel my frustration bubbling over. But she said you're still in love with Austin. My mom sounded genuinely distressed. Mom, that's insane. Austin is my ex. He's in my past. I love Maverick. Why is everyone suddenly listening to Danielle's crazy theories? Well, she made it sound so convincing, honey. She said you talk about Austin all the time, that you keep his old photos, that you even went to see him recently. My mom's voice trailed off and my blood ran cold. What? I haven't seen Austin in years. Where did she get that idea? She said. She said she saw you at that coffee shop with him the same day she did. My mom sounded increasingly uncomfortable, like she was repeating something she didn't fully believe but felt obligated to relay. Mom, that's a complete lie. I haven't been to that coffee shop in months, let alone with Austin. Danielle is making this up. Why would she lie like this? I was practically yelling now, my voice shaking with anger and disbelief. I don't know, honey, but she seemed so cert. She said she just wants you to be happy, that she's worried you're making a mistake. Her idea of happy seems to involve sabotaging my wedding and making everyone doubt my relationship. I snapped, immediately regretting my tone. Mom, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to yell. It's just, this is all so crazy. Please just trust me. I love Maverick. I'm happy. Danielle is wrong. My mom sighed. Okay, honey, I want to believe you, but maybe just talk to Danielle. Try to understand where she's coming from. Understand where she's coming from. She's coming from a place of pure malice, Mom. She's trying to destroy my life. I hung up, feeling completely defeated. Even my parents were starting to waver to buy into Danielle's twisted narrative. Later that evening, Maverick came over, looking even more troubled than before. Caroline, he said, sitting down heavily on the couch, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. My stomach dropped. What is it? Have you seen Austin recently? I stared at him, my heart pounding. What? No, why would you even ask that? Danielle told Mom and Dad that she saw you with him at that coffee shop. She said it was the same day she saw him. He looked at me, his eyes searching mine, desperate for reassurance. Maverick, that's a lie. Danielle is lying. I swear to you, I have not seen Austin. I haven't spoken to him. Danielle is making this up to hurt me, to hurt us. Tears welled up in my eyes. Why would you believe her over me? After everything we've been through? He reached out and took my hands, his expression softening slightly. I want to believe you, Caroline, I really do, but why would she lie about something like that? What would she gain? That was the question that was haunting me too. What asterisk would Danielle gain? Was it just pure spite? Was she really that jealous of my happiness? Or was there something else going on, something even more twisted and manipulative? And then a chilling thought struck me. What if Danielle wasn't lying? What if she had seen me at that coffee shop with Austin? But that was impossible. I hadn't been there, had I? My mind started racing, trying to recall my schedule from that day, trying to piece together my memories. A sudden, unsettling image flashed in my mind, me sitting at a table in a coffee shop, talking to someone, laughing, but who was I talking to? I couldn't quite see their face. My head started to spin. Was it possible? Could I have seen Austin without even realizing it? No, that was crazy. But Danielle's lie, combined with Maverick's doubt and my own wavering confidence, was starting to create a terrifying sense of uncertainty. I needed to find out the truth, and I needed to find it out now. Update 2. Okay, things have taken a truly bizarre and unsettling turn. After my last update, I was a mess. The thought that I might have unknowingly seen Austin, that Danielle's lie might have a grain of truth to it, was driving me crazy. I spent hours racking my brain, trying to remember every detail of that day, trying to pinpoint if there was any possibility, however remote, that I could have been at that coffee shop. Finally, in desperation, I decided to do something I probably shouldn't have. I went through my phone's location history. Yes, I know, it sounds a little obsessive, but I was desperate for answers. And what I found was disturbing. According to my location data, I was at that coffee shop on the day Danielle claimed to have seen me with Austin. Not just near it, but in it for almost an hour. My stomach plummeted. How was this possible? I had absolutely no memory of being there. I rechecked the date, the time, everything. It was all there in black and white, or rather, blue dots on a map. I felt a wave of nausea wash over me. Was Danielle telling the truth? Had I actually met Austin without remembering it? The thought was terrifying and completely illogical. I would remember seeing Austin, wouldn't I? Especially after all this time. Then another, even more unsettling thought occurred to me. What if I was there, but I wasn't alone? What if I was with someone and my mind was somehow blocking it out? The idea was absurd, but the location data was undeniable. I had to know the truth. I decided to call my best friend, Arabella. Arabella is fiercely loyal and brutally honest, exactly what I needed right now. I explained the whole situation to her, Danielle's accusations, Maverick's doubts, the location history, everything. She listened patiently without interrupting until I was finished. Okay, Arabella said finally, her voice calm and measured. This is weird, really weird, but let's think this through logically. You say you have no memory of being at that coffee shop. None. It's like a blank space in my day. And you're sure you haven't seen Austin recently? Positive, I haven't seen him in years. Okay, so let's assume Danielle did see someone at that coffee shop. Could it have been someone who looked like you? Maybe, I guess it's possible, but unlikely. It's a small town, people know me. But Danielle is saying it was you specifically. And she's saying you were with Austin. That's very specific. Arabella paused, then said, Caroline, have you considered? Could Danielle be mistaken about who she saw? I frowned. Mistaken about seeing me? And Austin? That seems even more unlikely than me forgetting I was there. But what if she didn't see you? What if she saw someone else, someone who looked like you with someone who looked like Austin, and she just jumped to conclusions? Who would that be? I asked, feeling increasingly confused. Arabella was silent for a moment, then said slowly, Caroline, have you ever considered that Danielle might be obsessed with you? I laughed, a short, disbelieving sound. Obsessed with me? Danielle? That's ridiculous. We're sisters, we're competitive, but obsessed? No way. Think about it, Caroline. She's always been competitive with you, right? Always trying to one-up you, always needing to be the center of attention. And now, suddenly, she's fixated on your relationship, on your fiancé, on your ex. It's a very specific kind of focus. I thought back to Danielle's behavior, her constant need for validation, her subtle put-downs, her need to always be the best, the prettiest, the most successful. And now, this bizarre campaign to sabotage my wedding, centered around my past relationship with Austin. A chill ran down my spine. Could Arabella be right? Could Danielle's concern actually be something much darker, much more twisted? But why Austin? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. Why would she fixate on him? Maybe because he's your ex. Maybe because he represents a past relationship that didn't work out. Maybe she's trying to convince herself and everyone else that you're not really happy, that you're still longing for something you can't have. Arabella's voice was quiet, thoughtful. But the coffee shop, the location data, that's still unexplained. I felt a knot of anxiety tightening in my chest. Okay, Arabella said, her voice becoming more decisive, we need to figure out what really happened at that coffee shop, and we need to do it without Danielle knowing. Let's go there tomorrow. We'll talk to the baristas, see if anyone remembers seeing you, or anyone who looked like you, or anyone who looked like Austin on that day. The idea was crazy, almost like something out of a detective novel. But I was desperate for answers, and Arabella's theory, as outlandish as it seemed, was starting to make a disturbing kind of sense. The thought of Danielle being obsessed with me, of her deliberately trying to sabotage my happiness, was terrifying. But the thought of her being right, of me secretly still longing for Austin, was even worse. I had to know the truth, whatever it might be. And tomorrow, Arabella and I were going to find it. Resolution: the coffee shop investigation turned out to be even more surreal than I could have imagined. Arabella and I drove to my old college town the next morning, feeling like amateur sleuths on a mission. The coffee shop was a small, independent place, the kind where the baristas remember regular customers and the atmosphere is cozy and welcoming. We went in, ordered coffee, and then, trying to act casual, I approached the barista behind the counter. Excuse me, I said, smiling nervously. I was wondering if you could help me with something. My sister thinks she saw me here a few weeks ago on date of Danielle's claim, around lunchtime. She said I was with a friend. I just can't remember being here that day, and she's convinced I am. Would you happen to remember seeing me? The barista, a friendly young woman with bright pink hair, looked thoughtful. Let me think. Date, lunchtime. I remember that day being pretty busy. Lots of students studying for finals. She paused, tapping her chin. Wait a minute. Were you the one with the twin? My jaw dropped. Twin? I don't have a twin. The barista frowned. Really? Because I definitely remember seeing two women who looked exactly alike that day. They were sitting at that corner table, the one by the window. Everyone was staring because it was so weird, like looking in a mirror. Arabella and I exchanged stunned glances. Twin, are you sure? Arabella asked, her voice hushed. Positive, the barista said, nodding emphatically. They were identical. Same hair, same clothes, even the same glasses. It was really freaky. And do you remember who they were with? I asked, my voice trembling slightly. The barista shrugged. Just each other as far as I remember. They were talking and laughing, looked like they were having a good time. Why, is something wrong? I shook my head, trying to process this information. No, nothing's wrong. Thank you so much. You've been a huge help. We retreated to a table, our coffees forgot. Twin, Arabella whispered, her eyes wide. Danielle has a twin? I shook my head again, feeling a wave of dizziness wash over me. Number Danielle doesn't have a twin. She's an only child. I'm an only child. There are no twins in our family. But then, a memory surfaced, a fleeting, almost forgotten detail from my childhood. A conversation with my mother, years ago, about a distant relative, a great aunt or something, who had given up a baby for adoption. A baby girl, a twin sister. My breath hitched. Wait, I said, my voice barely audible. There was a story, a family rumor, about a great aunt who had a twin sister she gave up for adoption. It was never confirmed, just family gossip. Arabella's eyes widened. Caroline, do you think? The pieces clicked into place with terrifying clarity. Danielle's obsession, her sudden focus on Austin, her lie about seeing me at the coffee shop, the barista's description of identical twins. It all pointed to one unbelievable, impossible conclusion. Danielle has a twin sister. I whispered, the words feeling foreign and unreal on my tongue. And I think she's been using her to sabotage my wedding. We spent the rest of the day piecing together the puzzle, making frantic phone calls, digging through old family records, even discreetly contacting distant relatives. And slowly, painstakingly, the truth emerged. My great-aunt had given up a twin sister for adoption, and that twin sister, against all odds, had somehow found Danielle. They had connected online, discovered their shared history, and unbelievably had met in person. The twin sister's name was Arabella. No, not my Arabella, but another Arabella, a cruel twist of fate, a cosmic joke. And this other Arabella, whoever she was somehow involved in Danielle's bizarre scheme. We still didn't know the full extent of their plan or why Danielle was doing this, but the coffee shop sighting, the key piece of her lie, was explained. It wasn't me Danielle had seen at the coffee shop. It was her twin sister, my unknown, long-lost cousin, a doppelganger I never knew existed. Armed with this shocking revelation, I confronted Danielle. I didn't yell, I didn't accuse, I simply laid out the facts, the location data, the barista's testimony, the family history, everything. At first, she denied it vehemently, hysterically. But as I calmly presented the evidence, her denials faltered, her bravado crumbled, and finally she broke down. The truth, when it came, was even more twisted and pathetic than I could have imagined. Danielle was obsessed with me in a deeply unhealthy, deeply disturbing way. She had always envied my life, my relationships, my happiness. And when I got engaged to Maverick, her envy spiraled into something darker, something destructive. She had found her twin sister online, not out of genuine sisterly affection, but as a weapon, a tool to use against me. She had concocted this elaborate scheme to make Maverick doubt my love, to make me doubt myself, to ultimately destroy my wedding. The coffee shop sighting was staged, a deliberate deception, with her twin sister playing the role of Caroline meeting with Austin. The Facebook post, the phone calls to my parents, it was all part of her calculated plan to sow seeds of doubt and chaos. Why Austin? Because he was a convenient symbol of my past, a reminder of a relationship that hadn't lasted, a potential, what-if scenario she could exploit. It wasn't about Austin at all, it was about me, about tearing me down, about stealing my happiness. The revelation was devastating, but also strangely liberating. Finally, everything made sense, the bizarre behavior, the illogical accusations, the sheer malice of her campaign. It wasn't about me being secretly in love with Austin, it was about Danielle's twisted need to control and destroy. I told Maverick everything, the twin sister, the staged coffee shop meeting, Danielle's confession. He was shocked, horrified, but also relieved. Relieved that I hadn't been lying, relieved that his doubts were unfounded, relieved that our relationship was still solid, still real. We canceled the wedding, not because Danielle had succeeded in breaking us apart, but because I couldn't imagine starting our marriage with this dark cloud hanging over us. We needed time to heal, to process, to deal with the fallout of Danielle's actions. The family is fractured, understandably. My parents are heartbroken and ashamed, struggling to understand how their daughter could be capable of such cruelty. Danielle is Danielle, still refusing to take responsibility, still playing the victim, still blaming me for exposing her. Maverick and I are still together, stronger than ever, ironically. This ordeal, as painful as it has been, has forced us to confront our vulnerabilities, to communicate more openly, to deepen our trust in each other. We'll get married eventually, when the time is right, when the wounds have healed, when Danielle's shadow no longer looms over our lives. For now, we're focusing on us, on rebuilding our peace, on reclaiming our happiness, and on leaving Danielle's twisted games behind us forever.